In the United States, President Donald Trump signed a series of executive orders on his first day in office following his inauguration. In Russia, President Biden Putin said Russia became the main supplier of natural gas to China. In Palestine, the health ministry reported 7 Palestinians killed and 35 others injured during the ongoing Israeli aggression in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In the United States, President Donald Trump signed a series of executive orders on his first day in office following his inauguration. The first 9 executive orders were signed in front of a crowd of 20,000 people during the presidential inauguration parade in Washington. The first order rescinds 78 executive actions and presidential memoranda issued by the Biden administration over the past 4 years. The president declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border while ordering a review of the refugee admissions program to better align it with U.S. principles and interests. The current president, meanwhile, called the previous administration the worst in history for allowing criminals and criminal groups into the country.
We're going to sign some orders right now, and that's really what I want to do. So we're going to sign executive orders. First, I'll revoke nearly 80 destructive and radical executive actions of the previous administration, one of the worst administrations in history, maybe not one of them, the worst. Anybody that would allow millions of people to pour through our borders from jails, prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums, gang members to be taken off the streets of Venezuela and deposited in our country, and many, not just Venezuela. You know, crime in Venezuela is down 74% because they took their criminals and gave them to us through an open border policy of the previous administration.
In this context, the newly sworn-in U.S. President revoked the executive order of January 14th, in which former President Joe Biden removed Cuba from the state-sponsoring terrorism list. In addition, Trump ordered a repeal of the executive order that guaranteed an educational environment free of gender discrimination, as well as ordered the abrogation of laws that promoted racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Donald Trump also talked about some of the measures he will take to make his nation rich again.
We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources.
In a press briefing held Tuesday, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China condemned the decision of the new U.S. administration of Donald Trump to include Cuba in the state-sponsoring terrorism list.
中方注意到有关情况，正如迪亚斯卡内尔主席指出的，
As President Diaz-Canel pointed out, the new United States government has resumed the deceptive practice of listing Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism. The aim is to continue intensifying its brutal economic war against Cuba in order to achieve its goal of dominating the country. The repeated use of the known state-sponsoring terrorism list wantonly imposes unilateral sanctions on Cuba, runs counter to facts, and it has no basis. It fully reveals the hegemonic, high-handed and bullying face of the United States.
充分暴露了美国霸权。
The spokesman also announced that they will seek to collaborate with the new U.S. administration to resolve trade issues after President Trump threatened to impose severe tariffs on China.
The innate character of China-US economic and trade cooperation is mutual benefits and common wins. Maintaining the stable development of China-US economic and trade relations is in the fundamental interests of the two countries and the two peoples and is also conducive to global economic development. China is willing to strengthen dialogue and communication with the United States. Properly manage differences and expand mutually beneficial cooperation, in accordance with the principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. It is hoped that the United States will work with China to jointly promote the stable, healthy, and sustainable development of China-US economic and trade relations.
Indigenous U.S. leader Leonard Peltier, who has been in prison for more than 40 years, received a commutation of his sentence on January 20th in one of Joe Biden's last official acts before leaving the White House. The extraordinary move finally heard the outcry of thousands of people inside and outside the United States, international religious leaders, human rights organizations, and celebrities who called for his release. Peltier, 80-year-old, was denied parole in July and was not eligible for parole again until 2026. Peltier was convicted of participating in the 1975 murder of 2 FBI agents on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota and was serving life in prison, always maintained his innocence. According to the defense, the evidence was falsified against him. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Russia became the main supplier of natural gas to China as part of energy cooperation agreements. Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed this during a video meeting with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on Tuesday. At the same time, the Russian head of state added that Moscow is also the leading oil exporter to China. For his part, the Chinese president emphasized that relations between the two nations are based on friendship and mutual trust, which allows them to carry out successful projects in industry, transportation, agriculture, and other sectors.
We build our ties on the basis of friendship, mutual trust, and support for equality and mutual benefit. These ties are self-sufficient. They do not depend on domestic political factors nor the current global situation. It can be said with certainty that foreign policy communication, joint work between Russia and China objectively plays an important and stabilizing role in international affairs.
China-Russia relations, with eternal kindness and friendship at their core, as well as comprehensive strategic interaction, mutually beneficial cooperation and wins for both sides, are gaining new vitality.
On Tuesday, Belarus holds early elections to choose the country's next president. Voting will run until January 25, 2025. More than 6 million citizens are called to participate in these elections. There are 5 candidates running for the presidential office. Among the candidates stands out the current president Alexander Lukashenko, who is seeking a 7th term. Polling stations will open from noon to 7 p.m. local time for the next 5 days. In Palestine, the health ministry reported 7 Palestinians killed and 35 others injured during the ongoing Israeli aggression in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. In a statement, the authorities indicated that after the attack, the victims were transferred to Al-Amal and Al-Shifa hospital. Local media report that Israeli warplanes take part in the aggression on the city and camp. As of January 20th, the Zionist army continues to install iron gates at the entrances of several towns and villages in the West Bank, restricting the transit of residents as well as imposing collective punishments against the population. And also in Palestine, authorities report the arrival of hundreds of shipments of humanitarian aid for those affected by the crisis in the Gaza Strip. In the context of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Palestinian resistance movement, approximately 915 trucks were allowed to cross the border from Egypt to the southern city of Rafah. After the truce, some families returned to their homes, finding a level of destruction that they described as a dystopia. According to various organizations, around 90% of Gazan population was displaced, suffering from malnutrition after 15 months of Israeli bombardment. And concurrently with the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, Israeli forces and extremist settlers terrorized the Palestinian population in the occupied West Bank. On Monday evening, groups of heavily armed Israeli settlers launched a set of arson attacks on vehicles, commercial facilities, and houses, injuring several Palestinians. The aggressions occurred in villages located east of Qalqilia city, while the occupation forces protected the offenders. At the same time, the Israeli army arrested many Palestinians in the West Bank, as well as it blocked access to numerous localities. An impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol attends his political trial on Tuesday, which takes place at the Constitutional Court. The court was scheduled to hold the third hearing of Yoon's impeachment at 2 p.m. local time to examine evidence presented by the National Assembly related to the short-lived imposition of martial law on December 3rd. It should be noted that President Yoon, who is suspended from his duties, did not attend the two previous hearings held earlier this month. The court has 180 days to uphold or dismiss Yoon's removal from office. If the decision is ratified, Yoon will be removed from office during an early presidential elections within 60 days. If not, Yoon will be reinstated as president of the country. A 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck the Chiayi district in southeastern Taiwan on Tuesday, leaving at least 26 people injured. According to the Emergency Medical Management System of the Ministry of Health and Welfare, all of the injured were transferred and received medical treatment. In the same vein, an Air Force helicopter was dispatched in the morning to the area to conduct an aerial survey and continue to assess the situation. As a result of the earthquake, train service as well as water and electricity supply in several places are suspended, and now several sections of Highway 20 and 29 in the district are also blocked by rock slides. And in Chile, almost 1,000 hectares have been affected by at least 34 forest fires nationwide. At least 966 hectares of forest have been consumed by the flames, according to official information, which confirms the continuity of the work to put out at least 7 active outbreaks. In this sense, the National Service of Prevention and Response to Disasters ordered the preventive evacuation of the sectors at risk, including Romulo Hueco, Nahuelve, and Ninico, in the commune of Los Sauces, while the fire is being controlled. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. The President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, highlighted the strengthening of energy after assuring that the oil industry produced 1.5 million barrels of crude oil per day in January. The Venezuelan president informed that the gas industry stabilized and recovered after terrorist attacks. In addition, the head of state advanced that this year the nation will grow enormously in the production of gas for domestic consumption and exports. Furthermore, the leader pointed out that he has a powerful team, trained, polished, and great managerial quality to lead the breakthrough of the new hydrocarbon stage. President Maduro indicated that Venezuela is heading towards 1.5 million barrels per day, made by the people's own effort to strengthen production and reach the great goal of self-sufficiency.
La industria petrolera ya lleva un promedio en el mes.
The oil industry has already averaged 1,057,000 barrels per day in January, and we are on our way to 1,500,000 barrels per day with our own effort, our own money and our own resources.
In Venezuela as well, during the event in tribute to Piedad Córdoba, one of her sons, Camilo Castro Córdoba, offered a few words of tribute to the Colombian social fighter.
Nos reunimos para rendir homenaje a una mujer cuya vida fue ejemplo de entereza, valentía y generosidad.
Today we gather to pay tribute to a woman whose life was an example of integrity, bravery, and generosity. Piedad Córdoba was not only a political leader, but also a tireless fighter for peace and social justice. A firm and clear voice in the midst of adversity. A woman who dedicated her existence to the cause of the most vulnerable. Her commitment to the liberation of the kidnapped in Colombia went beyond the imaginable. Piedad risked her own safety, her peace of mind, and even her personal well-being to build bridges where only others saw walls. Her conviction that peace was possible, her unwavering faith in dialogue and reconciliation led her to make sacrifices that few would be willing to make.
The President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, declared on Monday a state of commotion and economic emergency given the worsening situation of violence in the country. The unprecedented escalation of violence left 100 dead and almost 20,000 displaced in 5 days. This exceptional decision empowers the executive to take extraordinary measures such as releasing resources and restricting the mobility of inhabitants. Petro has not specified the scope of the declaration, which may last for a maximum period of 90 days, extendable for up to 2 periods. Through his social media, the Colombian president said that peace is a revolutionary flag because it is the flag of life, and that he expects the support of the judiciary. On Monday, January 20th, the Panamanian justice system decided to postpone until November the trial in the Odebrecht case, in which former presidents Ricardo Martinelli and Juan Carlos Varela are accused. The date of the new hearing will be from November 11th to the 19th, with an alternate date from January 12th to February 13th, 2026, an action that, according to analysts, constitutes a new delay in the biggest corruption case in Panama, since the investigation dates back to 2017. Despite delays in the trial, the prosecutor's office announced that the investigation continues and that it is prepared to present any new evidence. 26 people are currently prosecuted for the alleged commission of a crime against the economic order in the form of money laundering, including former presidents and several of their former ministers. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media: Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.